Yep.
Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for March 1st, 2024. I'm Benji Fisher, moderating and sharing my screen. Also here are Aaron McHale, Arthur Schall, Ralph Kohler, and Thomas Howell. Thanks all for joining us. And we're looking right now at issue 2514218. Regression pages manage fields, manage form, manage display, should include name of content type or entity. So let me see. I forgot to prepare a sample site. It'll just take me a minute. So does anyone else have a site ready? I need to give a GitHub token or something.
I have a test site here. 1 second.
So I think this screenshot gives the idea that when you're managing a content type, you manage fields, manage the form display. Thank you, Ralph. And admin.
Yeah.
If I go to structure, content types. So what we're talking about is the page title, not the title element, but the part in the H1 tag that just says manage fields and does not mention what content type we're looking at. The only way to tell that is to look at the breadcrumbs. And the suggestion is to expand the title instead of just manage fields, say manage fields for content type basic page.
No, that's outdated. It's in comment number 101 was the latest state we agreed on.
Okay. So scroll down here at the bottom. Then 101.
Yeah.
There we go. So the name and then the entity type name. So example, article content type. And then the primary tab would be manage fields. So instead of manage fields up here, which duplicates the primary tab, let's change this. Let's change that to article, so it would be consistent over all of the primary tabs. Is that right?
Yeah. Article content type basically was the idea, because in case you have, for example, a view or a taxonomy, a vocabulary, or whatever else entity type with the same name, and that way it would be clear this article content type basically.
Okay, so would you also remove the word edit here?
If you go back to the request to the comment number 101 and scroll down a bit, we have two patterns. Basically, back then we've agreed on front loading and visually hiding, visually adding a visually hidden span, where basically the primary tabs label is front loaded there. So you basically have edit article content type or manage fields for article content type and so forth. That way, for screen reader users, due to the fact that a tab is an actual page instead of a tab, basically, there is the necessity that the page title and the H1 covers the entire page in the context, and therefore it's more specific for screen reader users.
Okay, so are you saying we've agreed on pattern A?
Action, primary tab. I think yes.
Let's open up this screenshot. So the H1 would be article content type, and the tabs are the same as they currently are.
Yep.
So,
And if you take a look on the left side, you see the visually hidden span.
zoom in a lot to see that. Manage form display for article.
Content type.
All right, so that's the current proposal. So
And this issue was then postponed. And in the other issue, I've linked the contextualize issue. It's issue number 3370946.
I'll slow down. So let's just make sure that everyone is caught up. So the proposal is to use the same H1 for all of these pages. And then have a visually hidden element that duplicates the primary tab. Is that,
Yep.
I got that right? Any questions about that suggestion? Okay, and what is it postponed on?
I've also posted in the chat the contextualize issue number 3370946.
Page title should contextualize the local navigation.
There basically was the visually hidden span added, and let's how to describe it. It's been a while I've looked at it, but it's basically the under the hood, the technical implementation. And from my understanding, the regression issue could become basically the wordsmithing for it. The second step.
Okay, so this issue fairly recent, was created last June, last summer.
Yep.
Last summer for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere anyway. And what does this need to move it forward? It says it needs review. Does it need technical review? It doesn't say that it needs usability review, does it? No.
It's mainly technical review at this point. I've commented on that issue a while ago. 1 second, I've searched the issue number and also created a Google Doc. Yeah, in comment number 20. Where I've basically summarized the discussions from the other issue. Oh, and I think Laurie also commented in comment number 28, and is referring to an usability meeting in August where we've talked about the topic. And I link in comment number 21 is also the Google Doc illustrating the current. I've posted a link in the chat.
Okay, so again, what are the next steps? What does this issue need to push it forward? A technical review at this point?
It's technical review. But the thing I was thinking about for us to discuss is basically those, because the regression issue and the whole pattern we've agreed on, ping-ponging with the accessibility meeting was basically just for content types. But things like, for example, how to handle, as I've mentioned, vocabularies, or things like the case for views that are disabled or for modes, and other parts of the UI, you can see basically or get an idea in that linked spreadsheet where you have for every page more or less or page type the H1 and the page title, what it's currently as is and what the suggestions are. And Laurie went currently with the other way around, not front loading, but following the pattern used in the breadcrumb, meaning, for example, basic block manage fields or article manage fields and so forth.
So is that something that needs to be discussed, whether to
Yeah, for example, should it be front loaded or shouldn't be front loaded? Laurie suggested to do some user testing in that regard. And also, as I said, all those cases like how to handle, for example, disabled, and should it be reflected in the H1 as well? What I would say, yes. And in the page title and all the other thing, all those other contexts listed in that Google Sheet. And yeah, we haven't covered those back then. We were only in the regression issue, we were just focused on content types.
okay, so I'm still not sure what decisions have to be made, what we can do to help move either of these issues forward. And I think that once we figure out what to do for content types and get that implemented, we could move on to more general entity types, like some way to manage taxonomy and web forms and so forth. But what can we do today? What decisions have to be made? We're not going to use this meeting to give a technical review.
No.
And the regression issue is waiting for that one to be committed. Is that even are people working on it actively?
Yes,
Um,
just today.
right. So if Alex Pott is making comments on the merge request, then I think that's probably going to get fixed soon. So I'm not sure what we can do at this point for these issues. So I see, by the way, that Simo Helston has joined us, and we're still sort of stuck, not knowing what issue we should spend our time on for the rest of this meeting. And I'm afraid we're already halfway through the hour. Simo has a suggestion in the chat. Let's have a look at this. It is issue 331-3616, ability to mark image media as decorative. Simo, can you unmute yourself and tell us what this issue is about?
Yeah, so this is mostly, I think, about this is about accessibility, but also I think usability. So this was something that came up on accessibility channel, but I was thinking that it might be also to check here for the usability. So there are a couple of comments. I posted a comment on like about a week ago, and then there are some changes, but I didn't have time to check those if there is something already done. So there is a comment by Wim Leas there. So it's about consistency, reviewing consistency between Drupal image and Drupal media.
Okay.
There on one of the later comments.
So again, what can we do to help move this issue forward?
Yeah.
So
there is a so there is a animated GIF on the like in the for the user interface changes in the issue summary.
Benji, I've applied the merge request to the site you're using.
Okay.
So here, one of the usability issues, I think here in the proposed version is that the toggle button moves when you activate it or deactivate it, and then also
let's see if we can
yeah
get a live version rather than the animated GIF. So the idea is to upload an image. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
This will be media. And that's just a screenshot of the people attending this meeting. And the text alternative, is that the new part, or is it this checkbox?
It's the toggle. Yeah.
Okay. So the text, the alt text or the text alternative, use a melody meeting attendees. And I see I get it both at the top and the bottom. Maybe I'll close the browser tools. So for an image where the image does contain information, I should supply a text alternative. But if it were a purely decorative image, I would click this toggle, and then presumably, yes, the box would go away. Okay, so go ahead, Seema. What's the issue to be discussed?
Yeah, let's see. You had it on one line, all of that. I could see now. So that works differently from when I tested it.
Should I try a narrower screen?
Yeah, or maybe choose an image. Is this umami?
No.
No, it's standard.
No. Okay, so does it have an image that already has alternative text?
No, but I could give it alt text.
One second, I just install the media library. Installed now.
I'm going to go back to widescreen. So I've given it alt text. And let me save.
Why were the Germans?
And then let's just look at it, check that it does have alt text. Yes, it does have alt text. And if I go back to edit it, at this point, I don't see the options for changing the alt text. I can add a link, I can do alignment. But it looks as though
how about that I cross with a line above it, the first one?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so that's and one of the things here is that toggle buttons are supposed to be take force immediately. So if you check toggle that decorative image, the standard would be that now that it's toggled, it's decorative image. So how about those yes and no symbols? Does it need those? Just click away. Yeah. So does it need apply button? So maybe click and check from the code. Yeah.
And then if I go back,
Yeah.
It seems to me that the main problem with toggle buttons is that I'm never sure whether clicking it is going to. I'm never sure what the current state is.
Yeah.
I really don't like toggle buttons.
Yeah. So one of the common definitions is that the toggle button should take effect immediately without a submit button or apply button. So that's something. It's from I think there is this. I don't remember her name from a Norman Nielsen group. There is one of the articles there that kind of defines when to use toggle button. So I think toggle button here, it kind of it's a problem because we have that apply and cancel button. So using a toggle button might not be the best idea if it doesn't apply the change.
Yeah. Thomas, you want to add something here?
Just sort of a question and a comment. With applying something immediately, is the expected behavior that it continues to store the text alternative in the DB and it's just not applied, or is it deleted upon turning this into a decorative image? And second question I had was, I have seen like really long.
So slow down. Let's just experiment, see what happens, and answer your first question. So check the toggle box, submit it, which is as Seema says, problematic. Save the page, and then we'll put this in our browser tools. And I don't see any alt attribute here.
It's the
Oh,
decorative
here it is.
yeah.
Alt equals empty string.
Yeah. So that's correct. And when you edit it, does it still have that somehow, somewhere?
Correct.
With the file.
Okay, so that answers your first question, right, Thomas?
No. The question is when you turn it back from a decorative and you detoggle it, or toggle it off, so it does delete the text from the database. So I think that's probably why it hasn't applied, because it's doing something to delete something that's been stored in the DB. Otherwise, if someone accidentally clicked decorative image and it applied immediately, then it would delete something in the database irrecoverably. So that's why it's, in my mind, that's why I would expect it to add a confirmation step, which is what the confirm and decline do.
Well, I don't think the database gets updated until you click save for the page as a whole.
Could we just test that real fast?
Okay, so sorry about this. Some text. Save that. Inspect. The alt has some text, so that was saved. Go back and edit. And I toggle. I submit this. The alt text is gone from the current, but I haven't saved the page. If I now abandon the edit tab and go to view without saving, I expect that the alt text will still be there. Yes. Okay.
Yep.
And there is another use case with that when there is media file that is added, then it has
Okay,
it displays default alternative text and the override default alternative text fields.
Okay, we can look at adding media in a minute. Aaron, what do you want to say?
Thanks. I guess I'm gonna say something slightly more generally about this, which is if I was a content editor coming to this and I saw a decorative toggle on the edit form, I don't think it's like I don't get a sense of what that does. Like it's not describing the, like all I can see when you do that is that it hides and shows the alt text. And so if that's the effect of it, if I'm an editor and I don't want to put alt text in, oh look, I can just turn it off. And an editor might do that for every image because maybe they don't want to put alt text in. So I'm kind of torn between the idea like that maybe some images are decorative and don't need alt text, but also this kind of feels like this doesn't feel like a good idea to me, because I think in general, if you're adding an image, you should have to provide some, useful alt text. So I'm struggling to see why this is something we should have in core. Like, fine if a contrib module wants to add it, that's like whatever. But like, to have this in Drupal core, I'm just not comfortable with.
Okay. And yeah, it does seem unnecessarily complicated. If you want to have the decorative image, you can just leave the alt text blank instead of making it a required field.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe it's doing something else, but my first kind of point was that it's the text decorative image doesn't really describe what's happening. So I don't know. The only thing I can see is that it turns off the alt text, which if that's the only thing it does, I'm not particularly happy about. Also, say as you just said, Benji, it's kind of like, well, you could just leave it blank. But yeah, it's unless it's doing something else, then this kind of doesn't seem really that useful.
Okay, Thomas?
Yeah, I agree with everything that's just been discussed. But in addition to that, for people who don't necessarily know what a decorative image is, this reads, when I first look at it now, like this entire thing is a decorative image, and the toggle is just turning alt text off and on. Like I'm not connecting the toggle button to decorative image because it looks like it's just calling that entire line, that like everything from the left end of the box to the right end of the box, as if that's all just decorative image. It doesn't, it to me, it's trying to be too concise, and in doing that, it changes the meaning of what decorative image says to me, the word decorative image.
Right, so I look at this and this is not a decorative image. I do want to add alt text to it, and I get confused because this whole panel seems to apply for decorative images, which is not what this is.
Correct.
Go ahead, Ralph.
Yeah, but removing the toggle for decorative image has the other problem that what I suppose was the intention to mitigate with adding that toggle is the case that you can just leave the alt field empty, alt text field empty. That would lead to people, and don't make it required, leads to people just clicking it away and don't add alt text at all. And that was the intention, to distinguish between add a deliberate option that something is a decorative image and that the requirement otherwise an alt text has to be added. But I've also added a comment in the chat in comment number 24. John Jameson suggests to add some sort of description or instructional text to provide some context to what basically decorative what the option is basically about. This image contains no meaningful information and should be ignored by the screen readers or something like that, he suggested. And just one additional comment: when the toggle button is deactivated and when it's activated and no alt text is entered, it's not directly apparent that the confirm button is disabled. That is also not that clear.
I'm sorry, what?
If you go to the alt text
Okay.
and just delete the alt text, some text, and yeah, add again something, just type, yeah. You see the check button, the check marks.
This
the
one?
brighter clear, and now remove the text again and watch at the same time that it's not directly apparent that that one is disabled.
Oh yeah, there's a slight change of color,
Yeah.
like just very little.
Yep.
Yeah, this whole widget seems very problematic. Aaron, go ahead.
So, what I was going to say, I'm going to prefix it with another question. So I understand. When you add an image, can you add an image without adding alt text? Because what we're seeing here is that if you can add an image without adding alt text, but then you add alt text, then you can't remove the alt text, it would seem. So, like when you added that image, Benji, did it require you to add alt text?
I don't think so. Well, let me try adding another image. And oh, I'm afraid of, I'm just going to add the same image again because so I guess this is the new one.
Yeah, so it looks like I guess that wasn't totally I saw it pop up, but it did pop up with the alt text area, and it did also it had that text pre-filled. So like I guess it would maybe it kind of forces you. It's not like I guess that's another problematic part about this interface that it does seem to like force you to add alt text.
Yeah, it gives me this little add missing alternative text widget down here. And if I ignore that, then I still get this warning. If I continue to ignore it and save still works. So that message is just a warning. This doesn't have any, it doesn't even have alt equals empty string. I just don't see an alt attribute at all here, unless I'm missing it. The one above does have the alt text. So the answer is yes, I can add an image without alt text, although it strongly encourages me.
Right.
Which I guess is I guess that's okay. Oh, I really don't need this hover text. And Ralph says in the chat, Hayden Pickering did an excellent talk at AxCon this year that had also a part about the problem about alt text. So let's just, for the sake of the recording, open the link. It is adactio.com or adactio.com/links/20908. And the part in question starts at about 10 minutes, 15 seconds in. So anyone watching the recording of this meeting can follow up on that if they want. Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what my other point was actually. It slipped my mind, because that was a pre-question to what I was gonna say. But it's it slipped out my head.
All right, so I don't know that we have time to also look at media unless someone really wants to.
I think if there was one media edit, maybe you could, if it's possible, to check, because or I can maybe share my screen and show what it looks like with media.
Sure.
So are you seeing some
Yes.
Spanish cookies? So here, when it's with media, it has the default alternative text from that media displayed. And this might be different version of the page, because it says here, this is a decorative image. And here there is a line above it, so it doesn't look so much like a title, or like it's kind of it's not only about like it doesn't look like a title for the dialog. But here, when I toggle the button, it only removes that overall default alternative text. So it removes the possibility to override, and it kind of gives the impression that, to me, that the default alternative text will be used if this is toggled. So I think one of the things here would be that it should remove also that the default alternative text from showing, and then maybe replace it with some kind of description about what decorative image is. So that might be something.
Right.
But here,
I don't know when this would ever come up, but if someone has added default text to the media item and you want to use it as purely decorative in the current context, then yeah, I guess clearly you can enter something there to override it, but I guess the toggle button lets you do that.
yeah,
Then when you save, even though there's default text, it won't be used. I assume that's
Yeah.
what it means.
yeah, it means, but it kind of, I think here, if it's all comes back to that, if one should know what it means to be a decorative image.
Good point. You still need to know what that means, but I think you're right that this is clearer than what we had for the image field, that this is a decorative image, is just for the toggle, it's not for the whole pane. Thomas, what do you want to say?
So it's kind of the second question I wanted to ask earlier. I was curious about what it looked like. So a lot of the alt text I'm seeing places use are not really short, they're very long. And so could we test turning off decorative image here and posting the una pia de, it's like put the entire sentence in? I just wanted to see what it looked like when you exceed the length of the box.
Doesn't look nice.
Yeah. So yeah, I was really worried on the shorter one, not for the media, but for just the image. And I just wanted to ask what if we could see what it looked like. I'm just wondering if they could, like, if they were to move forward with this, rather than, like, I don't know if getting rid of the toggle, like I don't like the toggle button, but I think when it's in decorative image mode, it could change the wording in such a way that it said decorative image / no alt text. Like you could, without giving long explanations, make it very visible that when you changed it to this as a decorative image, like when you changed the toggle or changed the state, decorative image said decorative image, no alt shown or no alt text, something like that. Because right now this doesn't indicate what the change of state was. Leaving the default alternative text in there, it isn't clear to me that that's not going to be used. So when you toggled it over, I would still think, to me, oh, it's going to use default alternative text. I've turned off the override, but it's going to still use the default.
Okay, so instead of just making that text box go away, replace it with a message telling you what the current state is. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
We just have a minute left. Aaron has had his hand up for a couple of minutes.
I remember what I was gonna say, which like kind of, well, first I agree with Thomas that what I was kind of gonna say is that also I said earlier that like this text like decorative image is something that's been invented by this issue, right? It's not a standard. There's no, like, as far as I'm aware, there's no HTML standard for saying this is a decorative image, which means that screen readers don't know that this is a decorative image. All they know is there's an image here without alt text. And I want to be clear that I'm 100% not in favor of adding images without alt text, okay? That said, if we do this, if the only effect of turning on this toggle is that it doesn't add alt text, then that's what the toggle should say. We shouldn't invent more Drupalisms, which is what we're trying to get rid of, is Drupalisms. So yeah, that's my kind of final take on this, I think.
Okay, I see Nod has joined us. I'm afraid the meeting is almost over. There may be some time zone confusion.
I've been here for a while. I was just
Oh.
listening in.
Okay, sorry, I didn't notice earlier. But yeah, we are a minute past the hour. Feel free to comment on the issue. Feel free to continue the discussion in Slack. I'm not sure we have any consensus recommendations, but maybe we're close, and with a little more discussion, we can do that. Thanks all for coming. Next week I'll be at the Nerd Summit and running the meeting from there, so it's possible that I'll have some other attendees of that conference in the room with me. But the meeting should go on pretty much as normal.
Thanks. Benji, I'm gonna I will post something on this issue, but could someone remind me what the issue number is for it?
Yeah, well, I'll put it into the Slack channel, okay?
Thank you.
Welcome.
Post it in here in the chat as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
Bye,
all for
everyone.
coming. Bye.
I have a
Yeah,
nice weekend.
thanks. Bye.
Bye.
This weekend.